Newt Gingrich here, and I'd like to invite you to listen to my podcast, Newt's World. Most people know me as the former Speaker of the House, but I'm also a historian with a wide range of interests. I enjoy talking with fascinating people who are doing extraordinary things. I release 3 episodes of Newt's World every week, and I want to invite you to listen. Hopefully, we'll both learn something new. Listen to Newt's World on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcast, or wherever you get your podcast.
Have you ever wondered what the media and big tech is hiding from you? Like massive stories that actually affect you in your life that they don't want you to see because they make the left and the Biden administration look bad. Well, now there's a podcast dedicated to exposing all of that each and every day. So download the fastest growing podcast in the conservative movement, the Ben Ferguson Show podcast right now. That's right. You can listen to Ben Ferguson Show podcast on iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. Download it right now.
Hello, America. John Solomon here. I love doing the reporting that we do at justthenews.com. Love going on Fox News when we can. Oh, and now I've taken all of the news making, all the interviews, all of the investigative scoops that we do, and we turned it into a delightful daily podcast. Yep, it's called real simple, John Solomon Reports, because that's what we do. We report. We give you facts, let you make up your own mind. We try to inform but not indoctrinate. How do you do it? All you got to do is listen to John Solomon Reports 7 days a week, starting on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Second hour of Clay and Buck. It's going right now. This is Buck. I'm in solo today. Clay on vacation. Black Friday all across the country. I know a lot of you are in line or on your way to stores. Actually, people probably aren't. Well, maybe you're in the checkout line, but the lines happened the night before, right? I remember being here in New York City outside of Best Buy, and it looked like people were waiting for like a Bon Jovi concert reunion Ticketmaster opening or something, where they were camped out on the street for 100 people deep. But no, it was to buy a DVD player, which does anyone even own DVD players anymore? It was to buy a DVD player for half price or whatever it was. The doorbusters. And I think it is a good sign because I always felt like the apocalypse was nigh whenever you'd see these videos of people getting into the fights. You know, there were whether it was at a Kmart or a Walmart or wherever, and people were getting too many of the Tickle Me Elmo dolls or something, and all of a sudden it's like, I need a Tickle Me Elmo, you know, my kids are going to be furious. And then the fisticuffs come out, and you get adults who are, you know, laying haymakers on each other because the store ran out of My Little Ponies. And you know what I mean? Like, look, it's a stressful time for everybody. When people are under stressful situations, they can react poorly. I know I have to do like internal breathing and work on achieving some calm. I do a little more nose breathing when people think it's okay to be on speakerphone in public places and have loud conversation on speakerphone. It's bad enough to have a loud cell phone conversation, especially if you're in a restaurant or where people are trying to relax a little, but on speakerphone, you know, just letting it rip, you know, they're just getting really loud. So I have to calm myself. But I will tell you, I had an easier flight to get up. I had been down in Florida. I came up to New York City. I had an easier flight than my older brother. I'm going to tell you guys about this one. So my older brother, he's a very calm fellow, very calm, very cool and collected. And he had nothing to do with this, but you know, the fact that this happened and spilled into his lap, well, kind of literally, just goes to show you what modern airline travel is like these days. So he calls me after all this, or actually texted me while it's happening. Then I talked to him later about it. He's on his way up from Florida, from Miami to New York City as well. We're on different flights. And now he said that he was somewhat asleep in the seat, kind of dozing in and out, been a long day. And they had already had an almost 3-hour tarmac delay. Now, I don't know what it is about tarmac delay. And I know we're all Thanksgiving traveling and stuff, whatever. Delay when you're at the gate and you see the number. First of all, when they change it twice, you are screwed. That is a very bad sign. The first, 15 or 30 minute delay, you might be okay. Take a deep breath, find your inner chi, find your peace. But when that 30 minutes goes to an hour, now things might get out of hand. Like now it's, now it might be 2 hours, 5 hours, canceled. It gets a little crazy. But at least you're at the gate and you can make your way over to one of those newsstands. And I always do this too. I'm like, what books and magazines are they selling in newsstands? Like, I don't even know if magazines would exist if it weren't for airport kiosks, right? So you go, you flip through them, you go, oh my gosh, Maxim magazines, it does still exist. It was a big thing when I was in high school. But, not that I read Maxim. I'm there, political philosophy, the very important stuff. I'm not in the airport reading those other things. And so sure enough, if you're on the plane, though, if you are stuck on the tarmac, you are feeling like you're in some kind of an experiment because it's not comfortable. You're sitting there. You're not going anywhere. And you can kind of feel the anxiety rising. So my brother's on a plane coming up for Thanksgiving. So it's Thanksgiving travel. It's the day before Thanksgiving. Or I guess it was late Tuesday night. So technically maybe 36 hours before Thanksgiving. But people are coming up for Thanksgiving. And he's kind of fallen asleep on the plane. As you know, there were, I think in 2021, it was the all-time high year for assaults on airplanes, like people losing their minds. Why were people losing their minds? Because of the masking, which is stupid, and the people that think it's not stupid are even crazier, and, there's all this stress and drama associated with it. So my brother's there, and he says he wakes up. He's kind of dozing off, wakes up because there is a woman screaming at the top of her lungs on a plane that is in flight. Stop him! Stop him! And my brother says he kind of comes to, and what's your first thought when you hear someone yelling, "Stop him" on a plane? Is this a guy who's going to be, trying to light a bomb in his shoe? Or is this, you think terrorism, right? I think most people, if you hear shrieking, "Stop him" on a plane, and everyone on the plane yelling, it's really loud all of a sudden. But then he realized that wasn't that, because two dudes came flying into his row. One guy pummeling the other guy. I mean, just laying into him. I've had my brother tell me this story like 3 times. Laying into him with, punching, and, swinging wildly. And the stewards, stewardesses, whatever, the people that wear the uniforms and give you the drinks, they come running in and they're like trying to separate these people. My brother, not my dad. My brother describes them as a stocky guy and a lanky guy. So there's a stocky guy, lanky guy. And they finally were able to kind of separate them. They take them from one side, they take them to different sides of the plane. So one goes up toward the crew and the cabin, whatever, the cockpit. That's what I'm looking for. The other one goes back toward the bathrooms. And everyone on the plane is very rattled, but at least they know, okay, well, it's two guys who got into a straight up fist fight in the aisle of this completely full flight, taking people to New York for Thanksgiving. By the way, somehow this didn't make it onto we were looking for, where's there's always video, but it actually happened. The fight happened so quickly that nobody, my brother said the punching and stuff lasted maybe 20 seconds. So it wasn't like when people stand up, start shouting, then this crew comes over and they start getting, saucy with the crew. So it happened too quickly. But, they said the fighting, there were some real punches being thrown. Now, you got to remember this flight of people. So start putting yourself into this. Whatever you dealt with this Thanksgiving, whatever libs were at your table who are like, I think Biden's doing a great job. Whatever, if Aunt Ethel is there, or your second cousin Steve sitting down being like, well, Kamala Harris will make a fantastic president. Whatever you've been through for Thanksgiving, you were not on this flight. 3 hours of tarmac delay. Fisticuffs in the air, plane goes into panic. Who wants to guess what happens next? By the way, the plane at this point is basically over North Carolina. So those of you who know your geography understand maybe an hour and 15 from New York City in a 3-hour flight, right? Maybe hour and a half max. They go, the captain comes on. We're sorry, everybody, but we're going to have to make an emergency landing in Atlanta. So now the flight is diverted because of these two idiots who punch each other. I want to give you the backstory to how the punching started, and then I want to tell you the final part of the story. wherever you are, those of you who are making your way back to home right now, you might be in some traffic, or if you're standing in line at Costco and you're like, why am I doing this for this Black Friday sale? I do this every year. I'm wasting so much time. I should be, watching the U.S. get its butt kicked by England in soccer. Not that that's definitely happening, but it's probably happening. Again, at least you weren't on this flight. So they divert it. They divert the flight and they land it in Atlanta. And the two guys get taken off by police right away. So everyone kind of, now what are you thinking if you're on this flight that, remember, 3-hour tarmac delay before it gets in the air? It's in the air. The fight happens. Now it's supposed to end in New York. It's in Atlanta. Atlanta's not close to New York, right? So this is not like you can hop on a bus to finish off the journey. And sure enough, they take the two guys off the flight and, everyone's thinking, all right, we're, here we are. Let's go, Captain. The bad apples have been removed. They tell everybody, we're sorry, everyone, but we're calling it. We're deplaning. They go to deplane. It Before I tell you how this whole thing finishes up, the reason my brother says that he had to ask a couple of people behind him who saw the whole thing. It was as simple as this. You know how when you're walking into the bathroom in a plane, and you can I always feel like it's hard to keep your balance, and it's not really, not really wide enough to get through easily. One guy was going to the bathroom, the other guy was coming from the bathroom, and they kind of bumped into each other. And stocky guy, lanky guy, and instead of just being like, look, we're on a plane, whatever, they did the dirty look thing, like they're in a bar. They gave each other dirty looks. Nothing beyond that. Lanky guy sat down in the chair. Stocky guy goes to do, the restroom thing, and he's coming back, and apparently, with lanky guy facing ahead, not knowing anything, not a care in the world, punches him in the back of the head. Stocky guy punches him in the back of the head. Like it was kind of open fist a little bit, but just whacks him, totally sucker punches in the back of the head. Lanky guy gets up, starts laying haymakers on him. Whole plane is shouting and screaming, stop it, stop it. Whatever. My brother's there. He, is saying, stop. He's trying to get them. He said at one point they pushed into his aisle. So he's right in the middle of this. Oh yeah, it was right there. So no air marshals apparently, by the way. You're always wondering. You always like to think that if something bad happened, it'd be like Chuck Norris jumping into action right there. Roundhouse kick diffuses the threat. He's got an amazing mustache, and everyone's like, we're good. But the funniest part of this whole thing for me, again, as told to me by my brother Mason, funniest part of this whole thing is that, so now they've told everybody, they've landed in Atlanta. Everyone thinks they're going home for Thanksgiving to see their families or whatever, right? That's what they're doing, pretty much. They've been this flight is canceled in the wrong city. So they're not, you're not even in your home city if you're from Miami anymore. You're in Atlanta. It's late at night. It's 9, 10 o'clock at night. So the flight situation is really meager. Now, they didn't realize that the police spoke to the two guys who got into the fight. Only one of them, I suppose, because the crew backed up lanky guy's comments about what happened. Only stocky guy actually got arrested, but they didn't see what was discussed in the terminal or, off the jetway. So everyone on the plane who was furious, and brothers, people are just cursing, saying they'll never fly. Notice I haven't named the airline. They will never fly this airline again. All that kind of stuff. Cause I don't want to, it's not the airline's fault. I don't blame the airline for this. Sure enough, when they all have to deplane, who is the first person in line trying to get on the one flight that seems likely to be able to get people? The first one is trying to get seats, lanky guy. And they see lanky guy negotiating how he's going to get on the only flight that they think they'll be able to. I think they had one or two other flights they could get, but they freak out. Well, the passengers are all screaming at him. The gate agent saying she's going to call security. Everyone needs to calm down. They're just shouting on all this stuff. So these things can happen, my friends. These things can happen. By the way, the food. So that was my Thanksgiving travel story. That is the story of Thanksgiving and the travel that I thought you should all hear. So whatever you are going through today, whatever you are dealing with today or have in your travel situation, you get a flat tire, It's not that bad. You listen to Clay and Buck show on your iPhone on the iHeart app. You're good to go. There's things you can do. You were not on that flight, my friends. You were not stuck there. And yeah. Oh, by the way, another thing is apparently this flight attendants, one of them was just shouting, "This is a federal offense! This is a federal offense!" while they're fighting. And I wanted to be like, I don't think they care at this point. Once some dude's punching you in the face and there's like little cans of mini tomato juice flying around and stuff, I think at that point you're on your own. You know what's amazing? MyPillow. As a company, the products, it's phenomenal. I'm telling you. You purchase their pillows, their slippers, their Giza sheets. This is why they're so successful, because once you try them, you're going to love them. And Mike loves to share his gratitude with the people, you, the customers of MyPillow, who have built it into this amazing company. Their latest offers on the MyPillow 6-piece towel set. Made with USA cotton, making it extremely absorbent, yet still providing that soft feel you look for in a towel. Set comes with 2 bath towels, 2 hand towels, and 2 washcloths, typically retailing for $89.98. For a limited time, you can get this set for the low price of $39.98 or $50 off with promo code Clay and Buck. MyPillow products come with a 10-year warranty. Through the holiday season, they're extending their 60-day money-back guarantee. Orders placed between now and Christmas Day will have their money-back guarantee extended through March 1st, 2023. Just go to MyPillow.com, click on Radio Listener Specials, and you get this insanely low price of $39.99 on the towel set. Enter promo code Clay and Buck, or just call this number, 800-792-3269.
One truth revealed after another. Clay, Travis, and Buck Sexton.
Newt Gingrich here, and I'd like to invite you to listen to my podcast, Newt's World. Most people know me as the former Speaker of the House, but I'm also a historian with a wide range of interests. I enjoy talking with fascinating people across a variety of topics. On Newt's World, we've had some extraordinary guests join us, like former Secretary of State Henry Kissinger.
Ending the war in Vietnam was a necessity in order to help heal the divisions in the country.
John Clifton, the CEO of Gallup.
The world has been winning the war against hunger for 4 decades. In 2014, it switched. We have a serious hunger crisis.
And House Republican leader Kevin McCarthy.
What I've really found the Republican Party to be, it's the party of the people, the working people of America.
I release 3 episodes of Newt's World podcast every week, and I hope you'll find my conversations engaging and informative, and hopefully we'll both learn something new. Listen to Newt's World on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcast, or wherever you get your podcast.
Have you ever wondered what the media and big tech is hiding from you? Like massive stories that actually affect you in your life that they don't want you to see because they make the left and the Biden administration look bad. Well, now there's a podcast dedicated to exposing all of that each and every day. So download the fastest growing podcast in the conservative movement, the Ben Ferguson Show podcast, right now. That's right. You can listen to Ben Ferguson Show podcast on iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. Download it right now.
The Monica Crowley podcast is a whip-smart, fast-paced, sassy blend of politics, culture, history, and humor, all brought to you with the sunny optimism of Ronald Reagan's happy warrior spirit. Hi, I'm Monica Crowley, and I've served 2 American presidents, Richard Nixon in his last years as Foreign Policy Assistant, and Donald Trump as Assistant Secretary of the Treasury. You've seen me on TV, read my New York Times best-selling books and popular columns, and now you can download my podcast, where you will hear one-of-a-kind insights and interviews. So join me on the Monica Crowley podcast. It's true appointment listening. Join our legion of happy warriors here on the Monica Crowley podcast. Listen to the Monica Crowley podcast on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome back to Clay and Buck. It's Ask Me Anything Day here on Black Friday. Light up those lines, 800-282-2882. By the way, I already had a friend text me and saying, I got a side-by-side. We're going clay pigeon shooting together with my side-by-side. So going the full Elmer Fudd, the side-by-side. You know, I know they're out there. I know a lot of people have them, but you really see the over-under much more in the world of shotguns. Will in Colorado has a question or something on the AMA. What's going on, Will?
Hi, Buck. I have a question for you. some time ago, you mentioned that you were a fan of the Total War strategy games.
Oh, yeah.
And I was very curious, which one was your favorite and why?
So I liked Medieval Total War because I have done full podcasts in the past, history podcasts, on things like the Siege of Malta, the Battle of Lepanto, the First Siege of Vienna in 1529. I'm actually working on a script for the Second Siege of Vienna in 1683. You know, I don't have a big social life, so I do these things. But that period to me of warfare, now Medieval Total War goes up to that period. It really starts more around like the year 1000 AD. I think you'd put it, maybe 1100 AD, something like that.
It's the First Crusade is the tutorial.
Yeah. So okay, exactly. So that's I don't know. I thought it was a fascinating, and you actually learn a lot about the dynamics of the different military units in the history of that time. I thought Medieval Total War was a phenomenal game. Do you have a favorite?
I'd say Medieval 2, but
Oh, okay. Well, maybe I'll check that one out. Although I got to do this when Carrie's not around because she's like, no video games. We have too much to do. But thank you, Will, for calling in. Greg in Goose Creek, South Carolina. What's going on, Greg?
Well, actually, I had a comment. I just wanted to say I think you two guys are kind of running the West Coast offense of talk radio. And what I mean by that is, if you think back to the old NFL with Vince Lombardi, 3 yards and a cloud of dust kind of thing, and then you move to Bill Walsh, who came in the 70s in the NFL and kind of did a lot of innovation as far as offenses and really opened it up. So my analogy is you got Rush, who's kind of the Vince Lombardi of talk radio, and then we bring you two guys in. You got a sports guy who's an attorney, and you combine him with a CIA nerd, and who would have thought that combination would be successful? I think that's pretty innovative myself.
I thank you so much. Very kind of you. I agree. And I think we're, one thing I'll say about both Clay and me, and we hope this comes across because it's the truth. We just love doing this show every day. And we just think we have the greatest jobs in the world, and we love talking to all of you across the country, and we're constantly thinking about how to make this a better show every day. There's an energy that comes from people with confidence in what they're doing. You can sense it when you're in their presence, right? That energy can be infectious. You're more likely to want to interact with that person, but the opposite can be true as well. If somebody has zero energy, zero confidence and focus and drive, I mean, look at the Biden administration, the people that are running the country these days. Energy and focus are good things to have. They don't have enough of it. That kind of energy can come naturally, though, with the right herbal supplements. This is the company that we talk to you about so often, Chalk. They make everyday supplements that supply you with energy, focus, and stamina. They spell their name CHOQ. All their products are online. Try their male vitality stack for the guys out there. They've got great hormonal balance stuff for women as well, though. But try the male vitality stack, specifically formulated for your body to give you the nutrients you need to increase your energy, drive, and focus. Go to chalk.com. That's CHOQ.com. 35% off when you use my name, Buck, in the purchase process. That's chalk.com. Promo code Buck. So I just told you that whatever your flight or travel issues may be, you weren't on the flight from hell that my older brother was on to get to New York over the Thanksgiving holiday. It's important, I think, to keep perspective about all matters in life. Perspective so essential. That's why I also think about how, as much as it is a frustration that, for example, in New York State, Kathy Hochul is still going to be the governor, which is a level of stupidity that the notion that she should be in charge of the state is so stupid that it also makes me a bit sad for people who can't figure out that she is, no matter what your politics, not someone who should be in charge of anything. By the way, my brother did make it home. He got into New York, I think about 2:00 in the morning. He got a seat on the very last flight out of Atlanta to get him into New York City. So he was okay, but his patience, he is more patient than me. His patience was frayed, though, by the end of this ordeal. And I'm still surprised there was no word of this in the newspapers or the media or anything. Usually these kinds of things, I feel like it. If there's viral video, there was no viral video. It was also the lights were darkened in the cabin. So I think a lot of people weren't even aware of what was going on because it was like 9 o'clock at night when this went down. So they had already darkened the cabin and people weren't really, everyone's watching the screens in front of them. So anyway. But at least you're not, despite the fact that you may have Governor Newsom if you live in California, or Kathy Hochul if you live in New York, or you still have, Mayor Lori Lightfoot if you live in Chicago, or, go around. Some of these leaders are just atrocious at their jobs. You're not stuck in Xinjiang province, China, which has been locked down for COVID for months now. Okay? It is crazy what is happening right now. This is the largest country in the world. So this isn't some, by population, this isn't some, oh my gosh, there could be a dystopian future that we face. But it's all theoretical. This is happening in China right now. COVID-19 cases, the Wall Street Journal reports, trigger a fresh wave of lockdowns in China's major cities. Those living in towns across the country's remote western region of Xinjiang say they have been enduring a lockdown that has lasted months, and the officials have been keeping quiet. Local authorities started ordering residents to stay home after COVID clusters began spreading in early August. The main cities have been shut down. By the way, there are now rolling shutdowns in a number of Chinese cities because their policy, and little Fauci would be proud because they're about as crazy as the Fauci over in China. Fauci looks at what they do with envy. Their policy is still COVID zero, which is amazing because they are actually having record levels of COVID cases right now. There are a number of reasons for this, but certainly one of the reasons for all of the COVID that is going on over there is that their vaccine, if you can believe it, they have a homegrown vaccine. They didn't get the one that the West has been using and now trying to just distribute to developing countries. Like, hey, you want our shots for the virus that it doesn't stop it or anything? But, a lot of countries are like, I don't know about that. But in China, they have a homegrown, or their own version of the vaccine that is even more worthless, if that's possible, and even a little more risky, I'm sure, in terms of side effects profile. So that's going on there right now. And the people, over 1 billion people in China are increasingly waking up to the reality that their leadership is just authoritarian and manic and doesn't care about this. Now, of course, it's a totalitarian country in a lot of ways already. So their threshold for this stuff is higher than ours is. But that's the point, even in a country that is a totalitarian communist dictatorship, even in that country, and it's not really a pure communism, but as we all know, it's still the Chinese Communist Party runs that place. I think there are about 1,000 people in the Chinese Communist Party who wield real power, and Xi Jinping stands above all of them and is the generalissimo. He is the ultimate dictator. He calls all the shots. But they've realized COVID zero is your policy, but we're having record levels of COVID outbreak right now in China. And they're overwhelming their ICUs. Their lockdowns have created a dynamic that many of us warned about all along, which is you're going to get COVID. You're going to get COVID. There is no hiding forever from COVID, but locking down your population creates enormous systemic, economic, and psychological and societal risks. And really no benefit because you are just delaying infection. Now, they would have argued, and they did argue even in this country, well, by delaying infection, we're saving lives because the vaccines are going to end this thing. That's not true. That's not what happened. So then we have to sit around and say, okay, well, considering that the vaccines, as you recently heard, a majority of the people dying from COVID in this country recently have been vaccinated. A majority of the people who die from COVID have been people who are fully vaccinated. And the term fully vaccinated doesn't even really make sense anymore because you're never fully vaccinated. You got to get shots, 5 and 6 coming up here, and then shots 7 and 8, and 9, 10, 11, 12. Little Fauci all along saying it's good for you. Get another round. It's so amazing. You look great with your mask on. It's going to keep you safe. The people that push for all that stuff were horrifically, categorically, and catastrophically wrong. Whether they're Democrat policy people, the Biden White House, or, your cousin Phil who showed up at Thanksgiving dinner masking up between bites the last 2 years, maybe masking up between bites this year. That was all nonsense. They were wrong about all of it. But you should be concerned because while you and I see what happened in China, and it's worth remembering that there was a months-long lockdown of Shanghai, which is really the most westernized major city in China. I've been to Shanghai just a few years ago, and they had drones flying by the windows telling people to suppress your heart's desire for freedom and stay indoors during the lockdown, or else they would arrest you. And they were taking dogs off the streets and euthanizing them. I mean, it was horrible. It was a true scene from a dystopian sci-fi novel. Then that is no exaggeration. Locking 15 million people into their homes and flying drones around to say, you may not leave. Oh, you've run out of food? Too bad. You may not leave. We see that. I see that. And we say, this is crazy. This is atrocious. How could anyone do this? I'm telling you, the Fauciites, the progressive left in this country, the commies who are a part of the Democrat Party, they see that and say, that's the kind of compliance we really need. That's the sort of shut up and do what you're told that they are hoping to achieve, not some other place in some other era, here in America. And yes, I will tie this to the fact that this is why they hate the Second Amendment so much. They know. The ones who want to go full tyrant, meaning they can tell you everything you can do, they can take your kids away from you if you don't support, transgender surgery for your 12-year-old. I mean, the things they want to do that are truly horrific, dystopian, and totalitarian, they know that ultimately, whether it's in 5 years or 50 years, an armed populace is a huge impediment to that. Not a perfect, impediment or blockage of it, but a huge challenge to that. So they want a disarmed population. You know this. I know this. This is just when you understand the left-wing mentality, it's very clear. And there are people that are part of that one world government push, like Klaus Schwab, who really does sound like a Bond villain. It's amazing that this guy is the head of the World Economic Forum. Here he is pointing out China's locking down cities again for COVID. Its GDP growth is going to be the weakest we've seen in, maybe 2020 was weaker. I've checked the numbers, but it's going to be like 2 or 3%. And that economy can't handle low growth. It starts to implode on itself. Here is Klaus. Wow. Klaus Schwab. Not, Charles, I'm sure is a nice guy. It's a very different Schwab. He wants to help you. We get into some good mutual funds. Klaus Schwab, play 18.
The base has been formed, but we have to go one step further. We have to have a strategic mood. We have to construct the world of tomorrow. It's a systemic transformation of the world. So we have to define how the world should look like, which we want to come out of this transformation period. I respect China's achievements, which are tremendous over the last over 40 years. I think it's a role model for many countries.
I think China is a role model for many countries. Terrifying, right? The country that locks people in their homes for months at a time, drives, I'm sure, millions of people essentially insane, scoops dogs up off the street and euthanizes them because they're afraid they're going to spread COVID. Never mind all the suppression of speech and all the other things. All the things that China's a model. The global governance crew, the Davos World Economic Forum set, which the Democrats aspire to be not only a part of, but to make the reality for all of us. This is what they think. Just remember that. Lockdowns going on. Full-on lockdowns in China. They do not work. Everyone knows they do not work. They are massively costly and awful, and they don't care. They don't care. So it's the same mentality with people that vote for Kathy Hochul, for example. Like, everything's awful, ruined everything. They don't care. They're on board. Just tell them what to do. Tell me what to do. That's what they say. I don't want freedom. A lot of libs don't want freedom. Don't ever forget it. Look, if you're having a busy retail day, getting slammed with customer response, that's great, right? That's what you want. A lot of companies do their best sales this time of year, but shipping a lot of those purchases out can be difficult and time-consuming, particularly if you have to visit the post office or UPS store. So it's not too late to get your holiday mailing and shipping under control with Stamps.com. Sign up today. You'll be printing your own postage in minutes. Isn't that so cool? Stamps.com is your one-stop shop for all your shipping and mailing needs. For more than 2 decades, Stamps.com has been indispensable for over 1 million businesses. Get access to the USPS and UPS services you need to run your business right from your computer. No lines, no traffic, no hassle. You can even save money with major discounts on what you're shipping via USPS or UPS, as much as, get this, 85% off. This holiday season, trade late nights for silent nights. It's so much better. Get started with Stamps.com today. Sign up with promo code Clay and Buck for a special offer that includes a 4-week trial plus free postage and a free digital scale. No long-term commitments or contracts. Just go to Stamps.com, click the microphone at the top of the page, and enter code Clay and Buck.
Making sense in an insane world. Clay Travis and Buck Sexton.
Welcome back.
Newt Gingrich here, and I'd like to invite you to listen to my podcast, Newt's World. Most people know me as the former Speaker of the House, but I'm also a historian with a wide range of interests. I enjoy talking with fascinating people across a variety of topics. On Newt's World, we've had some extraordinary guests join us, like former Secretary of State Henry Kissinger.
Ending the war in Vietnam was a necessity in order to help heal the divisions in the country.
John Clifton, the CEO of Gallup.
The world has been winning the war against hunger for 4 decades. In 2014, it switched. We have a serious hunger crisis.
And House Republican leader Kevin McCarthy.
What I've really found the Republican Party to be, it's the party of the people, the working people of America.
I release 3 episodes of Newt's World podcast every week, and I hope you'll find my conversations engaging and informative, and hopefully we'll both learn something new. Listen to Newt's World on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcast, or wherever you get your podcast.
Have you ever wondered what the media and big tech is hiding from you? Like massive stories that actually affect you in your life that they don't want you to see because they make the left and the Biden administration look bad. Well, now there's a podcast dedicated to exposing all of that each and every day. So download the fastest growing podcast in the conservative movement, the Ben Ferguson Show podcast, right now. That's right. You can listen to Ben Ferguson Show podcast on iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. Download it right now.
The Monica Crowley podcast is a whip-smart, fast-paced, sassy blend of politics, culture, history, and humor, all brought to you with the sunny optimism of Ronald Reagan's happy warrior spirit. Hi, I'm Monica Crowley, and I've served 2 American presidents, Richard Nixon in his last years as Foreign Policy Assistant, and Donald Trump as Assistant Secretary of the Treasury. You've seen me on TV, read my New York Times best-selling books and popular columns, and now you can download my podcast, where you will hear one-of-a-kind insights and interviews. So join me on the Monica Crowley podcast. It's true appointment listening. Join our legion of happy warriors here on the Monica Crowley podcast. Listen to the Monica Crowley podcast on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Clay and Buck, Black Friday, I got to say, I am not up to date on all the latest and greatest in the sales out there, but, people get very fired up about this, so I appreciate you spending some time with me, and I hope I get to keep you company. If you're just hanging out today, too, a lot of you, I'm sure, are just hanging out. I'm going to be hanging out with the fam here in New York tonight, so taking a relaxing. It's New York fall weather right now. It's like cold and dreary and gray, but I'm not on a battleship in the Black Pit in the middle of the Atlantic during the Battle of the Atlantic with Germans doing psychological warfare over the radio about how they're going to sink my ship and kill me and all my men. So I got that going for me, which is nice. Again, the movie Greyhound. Some of you have been writing in to tell me it is based on a book, which was called The Good Shepherd, not to be confused with the crappy CIA movie, The Good Shepherd, which I will tell you, I left. I thought it stunk so much that I walked out. There are only 3 movies I have ever paid to sit in and walked out of in the theater. A lot of movies, late at night, HBO, whatever, I duck in, duck out. That's fine. That's different. The only movies I have you ever left a movie? It was so bad you left? So what was the movie, Crash? What was it called? I don't know I can't hear him, but anyway. Natural Born Killers. Okay. For me, the 3 movies are, in no particular order, The Good Shepherd, because I just hated it. And I was working at the CIA at the time, so I just particularly hated it. Pauly Shore, Jury Duty. I couldn't get through it. It's like, hey man, let's just make the worst movie in history, and it was so bad. I think he might be right wing, by the way. Maybe I need to. I think he might be conservative. Oh no, wait, no, he's not. The guy, the SNL guy who is. Maybe he is. But who's the guy who's like, hey, making copies? And that guy is conservative, right? Rob Schneider, he's conservative, part of the extended conservative family. And then Magnolia, I left. I'm out. With the frogs from the sky, I found that movie so depressing and horrible, so pompous and full. I just hated it. So those are the 3 movies I remember because I was like, I can't do this anymore. I got better things to do with my day. I almost did with Vanilla Sky, so close, but I was actually on a date, and so I felt like that would be a little too much. You know what I mean? I can't leave the lady. We're like high schoolers. I think we're seniors in high school, or maybe we're freshmen in college. Couldn't leave. But yeah, there was not a second date, I will say. I blame Vanilla Sky. It was a terrible movie. It was a terrible movie. CJ in New Hampshire. What do you got for me, CJ?
Hey, just wanted to throw out there that your voices are amazing.
Thank you.
How did you discover your penchant for throwing them in at the best times?
Thank you so much. I used to entertain. So I went to high school here in New York, Regis High School, and I used to entertain my classmates. There were a few teachers that I did really good, semi-disparaging impersonations of. A few teachers that, maybe even the dean, who was not my favorite. So I did impersonations of them. And then actually when I was in the CIA, I could do different impersonations of some of the senior CIA personnel in the office. So it was a habit of mine for that. And then when I used to do my own radio show, the Buck Sexton show, from 2011 until 2021, so 10 years, we had characters. Did a little Soviet bear called Commie Bear. We had Angus McManus, the belligerent Scottish barkeep. I would write little scripts. I don't know. I'll see if Clay wants me to have fun with some of that stuff again. But we used to have a pretty wild time because look, I love the nuts and bolts of the news and the political philosophy as much, if not more, than anybody else out there on the scene. But I also always want to make it lively, make it fun, and make sure we have a good time here as much as we can. We talk about serious stuff, but we also talk about fun stuff. And with that in mind, we got an Ask Me Anything going. Third hour, light up the lines. If it's busy, just wait till we get through a call. Call in 800-282-2882. Coming right back.
Clay Travis and Buck Sexton on the front lines of truth.
Newt Gingrich here, and I'd like to invite you to listen to my podcast, Newt's World. Most people know me as the former Speaker of the House, but I'm also a historian with a wide range of interests. I enjoy talking with fascinating people who are doing extraordinary things. I release 3 episodes of Newt's World every week, and I want to invite you to listen. Hopefully, we'll both learn something new. Listen to Newt's World on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcast, or wherever you get your podcast.
Have you ever wondered what the media and big tech is hiding from you? Like massive stories that actually affect you in your life that they don't want you to see because they make the left and the Biden administration look bad. Well, now there's a podcast dedicated to exposing all of that each and every day. So download the fastest growing podcast in the conservative movement, the Ben Ferguson Show podcast, right now. That's right. You can listen to Ben Ferguson Show podcast on iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. Download it right now.
The Monica Crowley podcast is a whip-smart, fast-paced, sassy blend of politics, culture, history, and humor, all brought to you with the sunny optimism of Ronald Reagan's happy warrior spirit. Hi, I'm Monica Crowley, and I've served 2 American presidents, Richard Nixon in his last years as Foreign Policy Assistant, and Donald Trump as Assistant Secretary of the Treasury. You've seen me on TV, read my New York Times best-selling books and popular columns, and now you can download my podcast, where you will hear one-of-a-kind insights and interviews. So join me on the Monica Crowley podcast. It's true appointment listening. Join our legion of happy warriors here on the Monica Crowley podcast. Listen to the Monica Crowley podcast on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.